Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Troop Talk Live. My name is Angelique Bennett, and I will be your host today. I will be playing the part of Aaron Durr since he couldn't be here today. Hi. My role is I'm the chair of the Scouts BSA program, and today we have a wonderful program to talk to you about, and we're going to talk about why Scouts BSA troops and how Scouts BSA troops can form relationships with Cub Scout packs to help the Cub Scout pack and to help the troop. And so I have some wonderful guests today to share their knowledge with us, and I would love for them to introduce themselves. So our first guest, you may recognize, you may find her very familiar to Cub Chat Live, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tamara Christensen. I am the National Chair of the Cub Scout Committee. Hey, Rusty B, I see you come over to Troop Talk. Way to go. Good to see you.
Awesome. And then from the Scouts BSA side, we have the Scouts BSA membership chair. And go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Sutter, and I am the Scouts BSA membership chair. And I am in High Desert Council, which is in southern New Mexico, southern Colorado, and far west Texas. So happy to be here tonight with all of you.
Wonderful. And then we also have one more special guest, and we have a troop leader on the line. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Michael McAllister. I'm with Capital Area Council in Georgetown, Texas, and served in scouting for a long time. Happy y'all reached out to me to give a little bit of advice, and happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Okay. Now that you know everybody, we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship between Cub packs and troops and how they can help each other. So right now is the time of year when Cub Scouts are really often returning back to their program with the return of school. And we have a lot of packs that are just starting up for the season. We have Arrow of Light dens who are getting their feet under them as they are transitioning to a troop. So Stephanie, I would love your thoughts here. Why is it smart for a Scouts BSA troop to build those relationships with a local Cub Scout pack?
Yeah, absolutely. So building a relationship with a local pack or multiple packs, depending on how many packs your area serves, is so important so that they can establish lasting relationships and a smooth and an exciting transition for these families. So when they can start to build these connections, even starting before Arrow of Light, right? By being den chiefs, doing community service projects together, there's so many different ways that troops can offer a service and connection to the packs. Because what we like to show the families in Cub Scouts is that scouting journey continues after Arrow of Light. They get to continue on throughout the troop. And so being able to connect early and often and frequently, and not just, a one and done visit, helps show the families that long-term value and keeping the movement strong in the community.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Tamara, like from the Cub Scout side, what is your opinion? How does the pack benefit from that strong relationship with that local troop?
Well, I think the pack benefits from a strong troop relationship in all the ways that Stephanie said, of course, because when we have somebody like Mike who can reach out to, and he's an expert, he's been there, he's done that, he's got all these great people in the troop that have all this expertise, and we can reach out to him and say, hey, Mike, we're in a jam, we need help. So that's one way. So advice, I think programmatic support. I know a lot of packs want to go camping. We try to, maybe twice a year. Maybe they don't have a dining fly and it's going to be slightly sprinkling. And Mike's troop does have a dining fly. And I'm assuming you have a dining fly, Mike.
Yes.
And that he might be willing to let us borrow it because his troop's not camping that weekend. So the gear stuff, the sharing of the gear, maybe he could run a station. Maybe his scouts could run a station. Who better to teach whittling chip for bears than somebody from Mike's troop, right? So that's so important. And then finally, and I think Stephanie touched on this, the youth leadership aspect. The Den Chief program is another strong way that packs benefit from having a strong relationship with troops.
Yeah, and we're going to talk, I think, about the Den Chief position in a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more. Mike, could you tell us your troop in particular? What was your relationship with the packs? How did you work that out personally in your unit?
Well, I started off in Cub Scouts, and I was the pack leader for the pack that feeds into our troop, and Cub Master for them. And one thing that there was real lack of communication whenever I very first started. So when I was asked to take over for the troop, one thing I wanted to establish more was the communication between the troop and the pack and the venturing crew that we had at the time. We work together a lot with our charter organization and get together with all the leaders so that everybody knows what's going on. That way we can, organize things. One thing you talked about with campouts and the Cub Scouts coming on campouts, our pack traditionally did a fall and spring campout every year. And that's something that now we've incorporated it to where that it is a all charter organization camp out where all of our units get together in fall and spring and camp out. And it allows our youth to really see what's offered, on other programs, and allows parents to see how their kid can develop and move forward. And I think that's a strong point really, is parents need to see a lot of, what's available for their youth after Cub Scouts and moving forward. So it's it's maintaining the communication so that everybody knows what's going on with each other, and being there to lend the hand, being there to host events, do things, and which I know we'll talk about some, but there's a lot that goes on. And the biggest thing is, showing support for the Cub Scouts. Even whenever we do recruiting, when the Cub Scouts are recruiting at different schools, we send Boy Scouts to go help out with that. It helps out a long way. So the biggest thing is working together as a whole charter organization and not just independent units, I think is really important.
Oh, so that's an interesting note. So your pack and your troop were under the same chartering organization. So maybe that communication might have been a little bit easier for you. At least you had that in common. Tamara, talk to us about what if you're not under the same chartering organization?
So don't let that stop you. I think our troop, we reached out to all the packs in the area, right? So we had like 11 packs in our area. And I think Stephanie mentioned this too, like invite them all. And what was the worst thing that could happen? You have to get a bigger campsite. I mean, that would be so exciting, right? To have that and to invite them and to be a part of them. And once you start that communication, as Mike said, and I think that's a struggle that a lot of troops have, Mike, that you've identified, that communication. It takes a certain person to be that person to reach out. And it may not be the Scoutmaster. It may be somebody else. Think more broadly. Think about who's super friendly, who's super welcoming, and would be very happy to reach out to the local packs and offer their support. Get that person to help you out. If that's you and you're the Scoutmaster, that's awesome. If it's not you, then find someone, because I know you probably have someone like that.
Yeah, and there's been some great comments. And Rob Brodner says, reach out to your unit commissioner and they may be able to connect you with other nearby units. Absolutely, 100%. And Amy Jo says, it's vital communication. We've seen success with having lots of joint events with our pack and our troop. You never know until you ask, how can you help? And then Rob Brodner says, my son loves being a den chief, which is a great segue to our next topic. Stephanie, let's talk about that role of a den chief. How does it work? Who can sign up? How does it benefit the troop? And let us know all the details.
Den chief, I feel, is one of the more unsung heroes of a scouting leadership position in a troop. So being a den chief actually is a leadership position and helps for rank advancement. And a den chief is a scout in the program who ideally has been around for a little bit, maybe not the newest crossover, so that they have some experience and maturity under their belt. But it's a great way for them to connect with the pack. And the way that Mike referenced earlier, and also Tamara, with the bears who need to do the whittling, right? Bring in a scout, an experienced scout, and it is a youth-led program. And so peers learn and youth learn from their peers. So we want to be able to encourage that through the Den Chief program. And it's recommended that they take the Den Chief training. A lot of districts and councils offer that. And then it can also be taken online as well. So there are some really great components to the Den Chief training. It helps them basically be the assistant to the den leader. And it's a really great way to start instilling leadership in those younger youth. It lets them look up to the troop level. And it also gives a little bit of encouragement and empowerment to that den chief role to be able to connect with the younger scouts. And it's also really nice and really helpful to have a young, enthusiastic scout who knows these skills and can help teach these skills. And the den leader can focus their time maybe on dealing some of the administrative roles and talking to the parents and having that young, enthusiastic energy community. And then, of course, they see their friend when they go to visit the troop, and they recognize a familiar face. And typically the parents are there because maybe the den chief doesn't drive yet. And so it's just a really great way to keep and link them together. And they don't have to be part of the same chartering organization. You can be a den chief for any pack in your area. You just need your Scoutmaster's approval on that and connect with the pack leadership. So it's a really great program that I really think that we should have more and more. And the units that are doing den chiefs and sending den chiefs and receiving den chiefs as packs have a really strong crossover and retention rate.
Okay, awesome. And Tamara, from your perspective, how about that? How does that den chief benefit the Cubs? Like, why should a pack leader say yes to that?
So a couple of things on den chiefs. First of all, we had den chiefs, love den chiefs. Make sure that when you're sending a den chief, Scoutmasters and assistant Scoutmasters, that you're looking at the pack. Not all packs run the way you think they do. We don't have, most of our packs don't have 6 to 8 Cub Scouts per rank anymore. They're run as a multi-ranked den kind of, and they run as a pack. So you may be sending a den chief, and they may be actually a pack level den chief because they're helping across the whole board. So just keep that in mind. Packs look a little different than maybe when you were growing up, or maybe when you had your child going through the program. And make sure you're sending the right den chief. I have seen examples that like angels were singing. It was the best thing ever. Like they were the best people ever, and they were so helpful. And I've also seen den chiefs that this troop didn't know what to do with them because they were disruptive in their troop, and they sent that person to that den. And then the den leader or the pack leader was then babysitting just an older, like an older Cub Scout kind of level person. That's not what anybody wants. And that's not going to be a good reflection on your troop. So they're an ambassador from your troop. Send people who are really good people, and that will really reward your troop. But the way that den chiefs really help a leader is by giving them an additional resource. And I'll say this, that the den chief program was designed to help the older level dens. Remember, tigers and lions have adult partners, so they don't need a den chief because they have, those are the older programs are the ones that are designed to have a den chief. So if a leader, if you've got people, all the dens are available, start with AOL. Obviously, the AOL den is the one that's going to match up really nicely with the scout skills that scout has already learned. And that's going to be super beneficial to a den leader who may not be an expert in all those first aid skills and all the stuff that den chief has recently learned. So totally believe that they really will bring a lot of impact to the older level dens, because those are where the scout skills and the skills that the Cub Scouts are learning really match up so nicely.
Thanks, Tamara. And as you pointed out exactly what I was hoping you would point out, that you really have to match the right kid with the right skill sets to the pack. As my friend Garfield points out in the comment, the best recruiters for your troop are other youth in your troop. It's not going to be your adults. It's going to be your youth. So having your scouts visit the pack, the little kids are going to look up to the big kids and say, I want to go where they're going. I want to go to their troop. So it's a fantastic program. I also see Rob Brodner made a comment. It's important to note that there is no rank requirements to be a den chief. There are not. We recommend that scouts have, their feet under them in the troop, but there is no rank requirement. It's more about who's going to be a good match to work with the younger kids in the Cub Scouts. And then Rob also pointed out that Ventures and Sea Scouts can be den chiefs. They absolutely can. They absolutely can. All right, Mike, I have a question for you. What kind of pack events can a Scouts BSA troop help with? What can the troop help with at the Cub level?
Anything they need help with. I mean, that's the reality of it. But there are certain things that we kind of specialize in. One thing that we like to do is our troop will kind of take over the Pinewood Derby. Let the parents relax on it and say, hey, the troop's going to run Pinewood Derby. They're going to do all the timing and stuff. Everybody sit back and enjoy it. and it gives us a chance to get in there and do some stuff with them on that. Our Sea Scout unit does the same thing with Rain Gutter Regatta. We go in and do a water presentation on that and help out the Cub Scouts that way. I touched on it before with camping out, and we've switched over to really doing that. Instead of the Cub Scouts just going on their own for that fall and spring camp out, we're doing it as an all charter organization deal, and that helps a lot. I know our pack normally does monthly outings no matter what, and there's only 2 big camp outs, but a lot of them are going to be. One resource that we do every year is the USS Lexington in Corpus Christi, where they go down there and spend the night on the ship. That's something that we've been looking at, our Sea Scout unit going down there and helping them with, just kind of make it themed together to where that they're getting the exposure into what's available in the older ranks and how fun it can be, and really something they can look forward to and tell their friends about, and hopefully get more people involved.
Awesome. Stephanie, what about service projects?
Can I jump in?
Oh, yeah, Tamara, feel free.
I'm sorry. First of all, I wish I was in Mike's area, because he sounds like a rock star. Like, I'd like to hang out with you, Mike. And I think any pack would. Everybody would love to be with Mike's units. So the adventures, take a look at the adventures. The required adventures are across rank. So like Mike's unit could maybe put on citizenship across the ranks. That would be something that would be super helpful for a unit, especially at the beginning of the year when, remember, I want us all to remember back. I know Rob and Rusty are in Cub Scouts too, because they're on Cub Chat Live every week. Remember back to what it was like to be a Cub Scout leader. Okay, remember, Stephanie, you have people you're trying to bathe, and you're trying to herd, and you're trying to be a den leader, and you're trying to feed them, and you're trying to make lunches for tomorrow, you're trying to do homework, and you have to read them a bedtime story. Remember all that? Like, that's a lot of thrash that goes on every single day for them. So anything a troop can do, like Mike says, that helps take some of that load off of them, especially at the beginning of the year when they're trying to find leaders. They're always having a hard time recruiting leaders. Other thing that I've seen troops do that can be really powerful is they've helped with camp promotions. And you might be thinking, well, how does that help the troop? It helps you because I know that if I can get my Cub Scouts to resident camp, if you have a resident camp, I know I can keep them in the program, and that they probably have a higher likelihood of transitioning into Scouts BSA. So just some other ideas.
Real quick, I'll just say one thing on that too. One thing to look at is the way that we look at in a troop, the way that OA will run stuff and do things for the younger scouts and organize things. I know in our district, our Order of the Arrow, they run our entire camporee. And so whenever that happens and stuff, it's the way we kind of look at the way, the way the troop needs to be handling with the Cub Scouts. We're kind of that, larger society. So anything that you're used to that with OA handling in your troop, look at kind of mirroring that with doing it with the Cub Scout side as well. And I think that kind of gives you an idea where to go with it.
Yeah, these are all great ideas. There's so many things. And Stephanie, think about service projects. Do you have ideas how Cubs and troops could work together on service projects?
Well, so going back to what Mike said, any service project is a good service project to work on because I don't know about you guys, but I tend to connect more with people when I roll up my sleeves and I do a project with them. It's more casual, it's informal, and you feel good giving service to the community, and you really get to develop relationships and you get to connect. And then, of course, we all know in the Guide to Safe Scouting that there's different levels of abilities and skills and tasks that each age group can do. And so having the older scouts there in the troop level, they can do some things that the younger scouts can't do. So the younger scouts can follow their rules and do what they need. But then you don't have this big gap where the parents are just filling in. You have the troop. And then again, kids working alongside other kiddos and developing relationships and friendships and getting to see each other outside of maybe a more structured meeting setting is a great way for them to connect. So, I mean, the opportunities are endless. I'm thinking trail service, park cleanups, even bringing in the younger kiddos to an Eagle Scout project is huge because it goes back into that the scouting journey continues after Cub Scouts, and there are opportunities available for them. So involving them as many opportunities as you can is just going to make it better for everyone.
Thank you. All right. So, Tamara, my Cub Scouting days, I think I was last a den leader about 5 years ago. And so the Cub program has changed significantly in the last couple of years. So, let's talk to our Scouts BSA troops for a few minutes here about how the new Cub program is organized. And because of how it's organized, how that might make it easier for troops to help at pack and den meetings.
Perfect. Yeah. So first of all, AOL was written in conjunction with Scouts BSA, and it highlights all scouting skills. So its whole purpose, so those are your fifth graders, right? Just so you get an idea. Those scouts we're trying to get them ready to go to Scouts BSA. That's the whole purpose of that year. And remember that in the new program, they're not going to come to you in April or May or wander in June right before you're getting ready to go to summer camp. They're supposed to cross over January-ish. So that's really cool because then Mike, I'm going to use you, Mike, because you're here and you're awesome. And
No problem.
you did a great thing. So we're going to send them to Mike in January, and that's going to give them, think about that. It gives them 5 months before in Texas it gets hot faster. So you might be going to summer camp earlier than we do in Pennsylvania. But it's going to give them a chance to get to know the troop, right? Get to know the scouts. It's going to get the parents to get to know the leaders in your troop so that they feel really comfortable sending their precious bundle of joy to camp for the first time, right? By themselves. So these are, it's super important. The Cub Scout program has required adventures that are across rank. And those required adventures across rank have similar components across the ranks. That means that Mike could set up a really great event, and he could do something on personal fitness, or he could, if he wanted to do cycling or whatever his troop is their specialty. It sounds like Mike's troop has like a lot of specialty areas, but he could set that up, and that would be such a benefit to the pack, right? And it's going to be easy because of the way the adventures. There's also a series of elective adventures that are also across rank, like fishing, cycling, swimming, paddle sports. Those are across rank too, and those are really nice events to put on as a troop could put on for a pack. So I think if you look at the adventures, we've got some materials that'll help you see how they are across the ranks and what those requirements are at one pager. So if you need any help with that, take a look at the Cub Scout resources. Those are there.
Okay, wonderful. So, Mike, I'm going to pick on you for a minute. You are a troop leader, and I'm a troop leader too. I'm a Scoutmaster in my unit. So if these Cub programs now are aligned, and you could do a whole theme for a month, how would you go about, as a Scoutmaster for your unit, how would you go about encouraging your youth to plan something for the Cub Scouts, right? Because our Scouts BSA program is Scout-led, so we don't want to just come into our youth and say, hey, you're doing this with the Cubs. How would you handle that? How would you encourage your youth to work something for the Cubs?
So, one of the biggest factors in recruiting too, just to touch on this real quick, is your committee. And a strong committee helps, parents are confident in it and they like bringing kids into an area with strong committee. So the first thing we would do is we have our committee look at to get some ideas. Hey, what can we do that's feasible, that within the budget and things like that youth don't deal with? Then we're going to be offering options to our youth, because we are youth led, but we're not youth run. So we have to give them some options and let them choose what, was going to best benefit. Say, hey, these are some options that we can do. This works with what we have on hand. And y'all come up with some ideas, and then they'll come up with ideas, and we bounce it back and forth through a PLC meeting and, decide what we need to do. We want them to do stuff. We want them to do it fun. A lot of the youth that you have in your unit, they have siblings that are still Cub Scouts. So, that's something to look at too. You can get some feedback directly on what's going on. It's fun. I really, now, I'm assistant scoutmaster now with doing the skipper for Sea Scout. So I know on our Sea Scout side, everything they want to do with us is aquatic. So then we have to be careful working with the Cub Scouts on what we can do with them that, we can safely do aquatically, and whether or not we have, lifeguards for the situation and everything like that. So while you want the youth to, come up with everything on their own, we do have to sit back as parents and come up on a few things. We get, limit some options for them to work with to keep everything safe and do things. But, the biggest thing is keeping it fun. I mean, they want to have fun. So it's make them enjoy it, make them be thrilled about it, and make them really want to come up to the next level.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, I love how you said it's got to be youth led, but it's adult run. And at the troop level, that's very much it. So yeah, give them the parameters, give them what they need to do, and then let them run with the ideas. I love that so much. I also love, Mike, that you talked about the age appropriate guidelines for Cub Scouting activities and for troop activities. So that's a very important component of this. If you haven't, I'm hoping Brian picks it up and throws it in the chat. I put the link in there. The age appropriate guidelines for activities tells you what each level of scouting can do. So if you are a troop, you'll want to look really closely at this to make sure that the activities that you're bringing are appropriate for Cub Scouts. And if your Cub Scouts are visiting your troop, you want to make sure that they're following their guidelines as well, and that there's the appropriate 2D adult leadership. So fantastic job for that. I think I have about one more question that I'd like to throw out to Stephanie. So Stephanie, can you share a little bit? Actually, I think Tamara looks like she has something that she really wants to share before I ask.
I think I answered part of your question. Maybe didn't answer it all. I think the question was about how packs and troops can be together and what people may not normally think about what you can do between packs and troops. And I wanted to share about, so when I come on shows like this, I'm not really like, I ask a lot of people because like what their ideas and what's worked for them. And so I got some really great ideas that I was excited to share with you guys. So first of all, we talked already about adventures. We also talked about there are 2 AOL specific things that happen in the fall. First one is Bobcat. One of the requirements is to visit a troop. Okay, so I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's so hard. I send an email to the pack and they never respond. So remember that our pack leaders are 20-somethings. Email may not be their bag. Like Mike and I and Angie, Stephanie and I, we're all into email. We can be involved all day. These guys may not be email. They may be video. We know from our research that our leaders, our Cub Scout leaders, really respond well to like a minute-long video. What if you asked your troop to create an invitation video with their scouts when they think that would be fun, and you could send it to your packs and like have something cute, like just an idea. The other thing that we do is like the AOLs have to camp out with a troop. So that's another thing. Mike's got it all in hand because he's going to do that, but he can invite other packs in the area to do that. So that would be amazing. One of the troops in our area, asked us when our pack camp out was, and they sent a couple of boys and a leader over. This was a way back, Angie. They could be a girl. Okay. They sent a couple of scouts and a leader to our camp out, and they made Dutch oven desserts. So think about how that is. They're hanging around. Everyone was fascinated, first of all. And it gave our parents the opportunity to get really comfortable with that troop, the kind of people that were in the troop, and really, really get excited about the journey ahead with their scout. Okay. Next one is, this is a little bit different, but I kind of love this idea. Anthony Berger, our director of National Cub Scout Committee, came up with this. He's like, what if you had an assistant scoutmaster? And we also know that some of us have a lot of assistant scoutmasters, and you have an assistant scoutmaster who's also registered to be an AOL den leader. And so instead of the pack having to scrounge up and try to find somebody to be an AOL den leader, you let the assistant scoutmaster run that AOL den program, and you have it on the same night as your troop meeting. Now, think about how brilliant that is, right? If you had them coming to the night that your troop already meets, then when they cross over in January, they're already in the habit of coming to Thursday night troop meetings with you, right? They already know the parents, right? The parents have already had a chance to get to know your parents and your troop, so they feel super comfortable. Your scouts are going to have a chance to know the Scouts and Scouts BSA. And so it just becomes this really amazing opportunity to expand the program.
Yeah, I mean, with Tamara, when you introduced that idea to me, it was kind of like, why didn't I think of that? Just have it at the same time as a troop meeting. So smart, so smart. I love that idea. Stephanie, can you real quick? We have a few minutes left. I want to make sure. What is the district's role in building relationships between the PAC and the troop? Because sometimes we ask ourselves, like, what does my district or council do to help me with this? Can you share with us what that might look like?
Yeah, shine some light, give some ideas, and everything that Tamara just said can happen at the district level, right? We can be the liaison at the district level and at the council level to connect everyone. So, and again, the ideas are fabulous. And one thing that I did when I was district membership chair was actually ask all of the troops to create a promo video because, again, I am of that generation that just wants a quick video. So years ago, we asked them to put together, and the Scouts love doing it. They're on their phones, they're taking pictures, they're doing fun stuff anyways. And so I put together a troop showcase video that could be accessible and they could watch, and they could then, at least see some familiar faces, some of the things, because some troops have some specialties that they do. And it gave them a little bit of a preview for that unit before they went. And then another thing the districts can do, we call them so many different things, and I find new names all the time the more people I talk to. We've got our Webelos walkabouts, we have our troop showcases, we have our troop fairs, and so it's just a way for the district or the council to put together an event, hopefully a couple of times a year, to allow those PACs to come and see all of the troops in one location. I've heard of some as an ice cream social. I've heard of some as a back to school night, troop showcase on the plaza of their community, and then the camporees too. That's a really great place for troops to all come together and the AOLs to be able to go and participate and get to feel that experience of Scouts BSA and participating. So districts can help with camporees, these troop showcases. And then one thing that I also did is create a, we have the Be a Scout pin and we have contact information, but sometimes just a quick one pager that's up to date and current is really helpful. So being able to provide as a district all of the troops in your area and all of the PACs in your area and the point of contact, because sometimes the Scoutmaster isn't that person that has the bandwidth, the time to go connect with everyone. I heard, again, Tamara, I'm like you, I talk to a lot of people as we're doing these to get their ideas. And I love, we all know about the new member coordinator and I promote the new member coordinator, but sometimes the title is a little bit too much and people don't want that leadership role. Parking lot parent. So the parent that is maybe not wanting to do the leadership role, but they're more than happy to talk to the new families in the parking lot. They're more than happy to talk to them along the sidelines and get them welcomed, because it's one thing to invite someone, but it's another to make them feel welcome. So even just having that parking lot parent set up to be able to communicate is something that the district can help promote and collect a one pager on.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been such a fantastic show. There's been so many good ideas and so many new ways of looking at things. I just want to thank all y'all for being here this afternoon. Mike or Tamara or Stephanie, did any of you have any last comments you want to say before we go?
I'll say one thing.
Go ahead, Mike.
Back to whenever, as we look at this and we're recruiting youth, we also have to remember that we're recruiting another level of adults to come into the committee and future assistant scout masters and people that are going to be there. One thing that we tried to do is give the parents a little bit of a break between Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. So whenever they come over and you'll have an AOL leader, a lot of times we'll take and say, hey, why don't you serve on the committee for a year, see exactly how Boy Scouts works and stuff before we jump in as a assistant scoutmaster or something like that. So we kind of do that, but we just gotta always remember we're recruiting that next level of people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great thought, Stephanie. And then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yep. I just wanted to say thank you so much for Mike as a troop leader coming on. It's been a pleasure getting to learn from you. And I know your time with your boy troop has been, fruitful for the whole unit. And so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate your time here. Go contact those Cub packs and get them involved and get their AOLs involved. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Troop Talk Live, and we'll see you back again next month.
Bye.
Bye.